Howdy folks, Troy with V-Twins to V8s, back with you on the 240Z project. Last episode we got the quarter welded up and the flare welded on. We're going to start this week by getting this fender in shape, getting our extension on the bottom, and getting our wheel flare on here. First thing we got going on here is our fender is kind of making a bit of an angle in over here. So we're going to get to the bottom of this, straighten out the bottom of this fender so we can get that straight. Then we can attach our extension piece here. So, and then from there we can see how we're going to mount our flare on. So let's get to it. Okay, so I have got my fender straightened out here, and I've done this by straightening out these areas. I had a really messed up wrinkly area right here. I placed a patch there, and now I have this big long straight edge that I use, and I can lay that right on my panel, and it will pretty much show me what my panel is like. This is what I do. And I've got it pretty close. I mean, it's not perfect by any means, but it looks pretty good. I started to pick and file a little bit right here, and you can see I got a pretty flat surface. It's kind of like the thing has a bit of a rounded contour right here. I'm not really worried about that right now. And I'm gonna roll it over, and then we can see what's next. Okay, so now you can see I rolled my car over, and I'm gonna lay my straight edge right up on here. And as you can see, I got a nice straight fender line. Like I said, it's a little bit high in this area right here, but a little picking and filing afterwards, that'll be fine. I just wanted to get the basis of it. Now this patch down here really reinforced my fender and stiffened it up. And when once I do my picking and filing, I'll hammer this out, and this will blend right in nicely. So, as you can see, my fender's looking pretty good. If you look down it looks pretty nice. I don't have that where the end of it is tilting in. That's really good. Taken and installed this front extension piece, got it bolted up, flushed up. Now what I want to do is I want to spend a little time and get my flare into position so I can kind of think about where I'm going to put it. Part of the problem that I have here is that my extension unbolts, but my flare is not an unbolt type of situation if I weld it on. So I'm gonna work that out. So I've got my flare kind of figured out a little bit. I got it centered in my center line of my wheel opening. I like that. I like where the body line lays into the flare. When I look down the side of the car and I see the body line and I see the other flare, I like it. So I think what I'm gonna do is I had to shorten it up over here a little bit. I'm gonna probably have to taper this into my, my body line for my fender. And then I'm gonna do the same over here. I'm still not sure what I'm gonna do to make this piece and this piece separate, but these pieces still be part of the adjacent panel. I think maybe what I'll end up doing is cutting this and then putting a piece on the back side of the flare, so when you bolt this together, it tucks together, like kind of like this type of thing. But I'm really not 100% sure right at the moment. I'm still just trying to work it out. I think this looks pretty good. I got my flare fitted on here and blended into the corner of my fender right here. Got this tape line that follows the shadow line, and the reason I did that was because I wanted my flare, I wanted that body line to break on top of the flare in a similar fashion in the back as it does the front. Now the back is wider than the front, but I wanted it to kind of have that same effect. I think that my body line breaks into this wheel opening in a very similar fashion as it does in the back. That's my plan. So now I gotta work out this end here and where this breaks, and then I'm gonna finish the inside of this fender to the flare, much like I did the rear. So we're gonna get at this tomorrow and see if we can get the rest of this welded up, so stay tuned. Today's a new day. We're gonna take and work this inside and work on finishing these ends. And I think what I am gonna do is I'm gonna cut this, I'm gonna cap both sides and make this flare extension part of this extension, and then the flare part of the fender, and smooth it off and weld a piece on the inside. But I'll show you how that's gonna work out coming up next. So I've cut my extension here, so I'm gonna unbolt this and I'm gonna cap this off and make this piece that's on my extension piece nice and solid. Then I can make this back up and make this piece here, and I've kind of curved this back and cleaned this all up on this inside so I can make my inside piece. So I'm just gonna kind of work it along as I go. So now you can see I've made my extension piece part of this little fender extension or gravel pan extension, and now I've got my wheel flare tacked on where I want it, and I've begun to make my inner wheelhouse is what I've made here. So I'm gonna continue. I've got this part of it. Now what I wanna do is I'm gonna work this area here into the fender and then work this part of it into the edge of this so that this whole thing blends together. Then I am going to do the same thing over here and take this off and then deal with the top of this. The idea is gonna be that my flare will meet up, my flare extension will meet up with my main flare on the fender when I take this off or put it back on. So that's what I'm working on. So I got my piece fitting pretty darn good. I got everything on the inside welded. I got this kind of tailed right into my fender here. I'm coming right around like this. I'm coming right up and I'm tailed right into my fender over here. This piece is solid as a rock. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this piece off. I've already finished the inside of this piece, but I'm gonna finish the top of this and kind of work the two of them together so that once it's finished, I can bolt this and unbolt it and I'll have a nice body line here, which actually right now, it's pretty darn good. So now as you can see, I've been working this end and I got myself all tied in. I got a flat plate welded on here, and I have my other piece that has the connecting edge here all worked out. Now, when I put my two pieces and bolt them together, that's what you're gonna see on the car. It's just gonna look like two panels bolted together. Obviously, there needs to be a little bit of body work done here to make it look super pretty, but I mean, you get the idea. I'm gonna bolt this piece on and I'll show you what it's like after it's bolted together. Okay, so here we are. I rolled it over so you can really get a good look at this, how this blends together. And this piece is separate from this piece like it should be. The flare is definitely part of the fender. It's super solid. The inside is all finished off like I always like to do, so it looks right and almost like a factory-like. This will all be, you know, filled in and smoothed over with some body filler, body work, you know, some Marglass. I'm gonna go ahead and weld up these holes and put a few more tacks on this flare to hold it on, and then we'll see what happens from there. So here we're at. Done for today anyways, but I got this fender looking really good. The way that this blends in right here, I'm pretty happy with. I got it blended into the fender nicely. Got it all picked and filed, well, at least preliminarily, to get it looking pretty good. I worked some of these other little dents out of it, and my fender isn't bad. I like the way that this flare fits into this fender. And I think the way the body line is and the way the other flare is gonna blend into this body line here, I think it's gonna really make everything kind of tie in really nicely. So tomorrow I'm gonna start doing some more picking and filing, get this fender squared up, get all these dents in this door squared away, keep moving forward, but at least I got one side looking pretty darn good. Back on the 240Z project, I got my flares all set, and now what I want to do is I've worked out some stuff on my fender, a little bit of picking and filing so I have an acceptable surface, and now I have all of these dings and dents in this panel. So I was going to take a little bit of time and show you a technique that I use to remove dents from the panel, and that would be using a stud gun. So what the stud gun does is it welds a nail to the panel, okay? And it welds it in such a way that you can use it to provide pressure to pull dents out where you don't have any access to the backside. So the gun welds it on there, and then you can use it to pull a dent out, and then afterwards you just wiggle it a little bit or twist it, it pops right off, it causes no damage to the panel itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify my dented area, which is this area that you can see right here. And we're going to put it right on here like this. We're going to find our low spot, and we're going to squeeze the trigger. Okay, so I got my pin welded on. And I think it's coming along pretty nicely. I put my pin in the end. I find my low spot that I want to attach the pin, and I put this right against it, and I weld that pin on. And it's a little bit harder when you have another pin next to it. So now I'm going to feel it, and I feel a little bit of a low spot over in here. Okay, so by now you know the process. We put this in the end. Now I'm going to feel this, find that low spot that I'm looking for. There we go. Okay, so now this is feeling pretty darn good. And I got a pretty flat area. I mean, this isn't bad. So at this point, I'll be able to break my pins off, and then I can run a file over this and see what I've got. So that's what we're going to do next. Once I get my area where I want it to be and I no longer need these pins, I just take the pins and break them off like this. It's kind of a weird thing, but all of the pressure that these pins hold are straight away and not from side to side. So with all my pins broken off, now I have full access to this area. I've used my straight edge to really take a good look at this and see where I'm at, and I feel pretty good. I think I'm going to hit this with a file, and then we'll see what it looks like first. Okay, so I have my body file, and I'm going to run the body file over this area. Now what's going to happen when I do this is the file is going to hit the areas that are high, and it's going to expose the areas that are low. I'm just using this to identify my high areas and my low areas. Until I identify that one high area, then I'm going to take my pick hammer and I'm going to tap that area a little bit, and then I'm going to file it again. Now this is starting to shape up. I mean, you could watch me do this for the next hour, but I'm not going to do that. I will kind of progress a little bit, then I'll bring you back on. So we're back at it here. I picked and filed and chased out most of my spots around here, and I got a lot of this pretty good. This is my door area. I chased out a lot of these dents. And what's left is really, really minor. I'm not really going to chase it anymore. I'm going to take and sand this down. I got my all my panels tinned out, got my flares on, and as you can see, it's looking pretty good. Now, these little dots that you see are all spots that I stud gun on. And yeah, there's a little tiny dimple there, but this stuff is super small. That'll cover up like nothing. And we're just gonna have to work it all in and tie it all in. Here we are. So what I did after I DA'd this down is I mixed up some Marglass. Actually, it's called Everglass. I put that on all the seamed areas. This is a waterproof type of filler that seals any seams. So in case you have a pinhole or anything like that, you don't have to worry about any water getting in behind it or causing any problems. I also did this all inside my wheelhouse, so my wheelhouse is all be finished off nicely. I really like to use this stuff. I mean, it isn't that I don't use seam sealer, but for some areas I like to use this. Like you can see here where I've made my seam on the inside here. I took and Marglass that whole thing, and it just seals it right up. I mean, you just don't really have to worry about it. So there we go. It's like a big tin can right now, but we're getting there. So I am going to continue on this, and I hope you tune into my future videos, and good luck on your project.